Welcome, everybody, to PinstripeChronicles. I am Tats, and I'm here today with Donald. And Yankees are coming off another win, which means it's a series win against Baltimore, which, oddly enough, hasn't been said quite that much over the last couple of years. But, and Monty, again, struggling with no run support, having to be perfect every pitch. One bad pitch, kind of took his W away because he was really cruising along. But, it's not Monty's fault. The bats took a while to show up. They weren't as hot as they were the other day in the first game, but they did hit enough to win the game, and that's really all you need. You need the production at the plate matched up with quality on the mound, and that's what the Yankees really have been able to focus on this year. After the first week, which looked like a rocky start. We said this before the last couple of shows. They're finding their rhythm. They're in a groove. The locker room mentality is so much better. You can see it in the dugout, the way everybody's just, enjoying playing with each other, and wanting to help each other succeed. So it's just a great atmosphere that we haven't seen in a while. And what it is it's almost like the philosophy is changing game by game. And they're starting to really take hold of this new play of putting runners in motion. That hit and run with Falefa was a game saver yesterday, and something we don't really we didn't see the years past. It was just sit and wait for the long ball.
Well, the hit and run was DJ LeMahieu. It was Rizzo and DJ LeMahieu.
No, when Falefa had the single and then he had the hit and run, which prevented the double play.
Okay, right. There's two. Actually, happened twice then, which is fantastic.
No, twice, yeah. No, they had. That's what it is. Their aggression on the base pass last year, they were running into a lot of outs. This year, it seems like they're more strategic with it. And they're really focusing on the timing of the pitch's delivery, knowing when to take the extra step. This is the baseball that we grew up with, that made us fans. So it's really nice to see. But taking a series from Baltimore, as easy as that's supposed to be on paper, it does have a different meaning this year, especially after the way we lost the first series with them. What was your biggest satisfaction with the way the series was played?
Well, I mean, it's not finished yet, but my biggest satisfaction was last night when the hit and run with DJ LeMahieu and Rizzo. That was awesome, and then it set up the sac fly for Stanton. Small ball, man. Yeah. It works. Run creativity, when you're not driving in as many runs as you would normally expect, then you need to find other ways in which to create runs, and they did that on the base paths, and LeMahieu running, and then Rizzo getting that hit, setting up the sac fly, just changed the momentum right there, and that was. It was excellent run creation. And then, of course, you're going to get the big bomb from Stanton earlier anyway. But just the fact that they did that shows to me that this is a different team, because they never did that last year. The only time they did any kind of run creation was when everybody was hurt, and then they were playing kind of like guys like LeCastro and Allen and those kind of guys. Luckily, they've finally learned that you can actually use that with your main team. So they've finally done that so far, especially this series. They weren't really doing it necessarily at the start of the year, but they're doing it now. So that's a good sign. Also, defensively, they haven't committed error and I can't even remember how long.
Because they have four errors on the year. They have no errors in their last 10 games, I believe the stat was. And they have the second fewest errors in the league.
There you go, man.
And that sums it all up. That speaks volumes when you're able to.
Because we were giving runs away last year.
Yeah.
Not doing it this year. It's absolutely rock solid defense, throughout the roster. Obviously, Rizzo is Gold Glove caliber. Trevino is an excellent catcher defensively. LeMahieu is a Gold Glove caliber second baseman. Donaldson has been very solid at third. Falafi is playing a very good short after a shaky start to the year. He's now actually playing really good short. And the outfield, and Gallo hasn't been great in the outfield, but the rest of them have been absolutely rock solid, including Hicks. So you go through the roster and defensively, it's right there. There's a lot of good things right now, a lot of positive signs. I know, hey, we're number one in the East now.
And that's where we want to be. And that's we need to stay above the Blue Jays going into the series with them. After we still got one more game with Baltimore. We got the Royals, and then we get Toronto. They need to be ahead of Toronto when they get to that series, because with Toronto you never know. That's really the battle with Toronto is going to be very toss up, where you're not going to know what to expect. You just want them, like what they played that in the series that they split. They kept themselves in the games. They never gave up. It was just they got out. They weren't outplayed. They were outmatched. Is how I put it.
Yeah.
That's how they need to play these hard. The more difficult series. Don't get outmatched. Don't get outplayed. Get outmatched. If their pitch, if their pitcher is on. If they have a hot hitter like they did with Guerrero that game, that's just what you're going to get, and it's going to happen, because baseball, you don't go undefeated. You're going to lose games. You're going to lose series. I don't think, so it's really important for them to keep their heads above water, and ahead of Toronto. That's going to be our mission this year. It used to be the Rays. I think Toronto this year is going to be the team that's going to really be a pain in our ass. And we have to be very careful in the, Boone's going to have to manage those series with Toronto very strategically, and really read the room to know, all right, this guy's, I know I don't want to sit him, 2 games in a row, but he's really, the guy on the bench has been a little more productive. Use that guy. That's when you start to manipulate the lineup a little bit, and you play the hot hand, not the fit. Don't play your favorites, play your best. So I think that's how they're going to have to approach it.
I mean, there's obviously, we don't want to give off the impression that there's mad urgency in April. I mean, listen, it's just one series, so it's not, desperation time. It's just obviously that's what you'd like to see. We did fine in the first series against Toronto, but again, we're looking series ahead again. We're doing what the Yankees did last year, so let's not do that. Let's just focus on Baltimore, and then we've got the Royals coming up. So yeah, Baltimore. Hey, Mike King, once again.
The King shows why he's wearing a crown, because he really lost. It's he's been, I think, the surprise. We all knew that he was going to be a very important piece of the bullpen, but I don't think any of us expected it to be this good. I think he's got 1 walk and 13 strikeouts. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
Even for early season, you don't see that. Look at some of the pitches that just really haven't found their rhythm yet. We could even look at our own staff with Cole. How long it's been, it was taking him to figure it out. And kind of rework himself to what's working for him. King is just pretty much picked up where he left off. And once we get, the every other start from Loizaga straightened out, where he's a little more a little more effective. I don't want to say dominant, a little more effective each outing. King is going to be the guy that they're going to call on later in the games. And you start to see, Chapman's back to being April Chapman. He's holding it down.
Yeah,
it's been there's very little to complain about. And for us to say that for an April, team in April that, like last year and the year before, kind of sleptwalk through the month, there's just a different urgency. And it's not that these games, every series, every game matters, and there's no sense of urgency, or anything like that. But you don't want to have these series going, wow, it's only April. And then come September going, man, if only we had that series back. Yeah.
Well, that's why they didn't win the division last year. It was certainly one of the key reasons why they didn't win the division last year. Always they were sleepwalking through April, so it's definitely different. But the key is really the locker room. Joey Gallo said last night, "This is one of the best locker rooms I've ever been a part of." So if the players are feeling it already, that's a great sign. I did like what I saw from the locker room last year. They just seemed like disinterested. They didn't seem like they really wanted to play baseball at all. It's different dynamic already. A couple of weeks in, it's a bit more fun, a bit more urgency, a bit less robotic. You're seeing a bit more fire from guys that you would normally expect to be quite reserved. LeMahieu has been showing a lot of fire. You've seen Rizzo really going for it. And then obviously Donaldson and stuff. And then obviously you like what you're seeing from the locker room with the way that Gallo's hit a couple of home runs lately. You can tell that the whole locker room is behind him. And I just think that there's a better mentality, better atmosphere around the team this year. And so, if I called out Boone last year for the awful way that he handled the locker room last year, it's different this year. It seems to be better. So, credit where it's due. I think he's doing what's required to put together a nice locker room, and it looks like they're playing up to their standards. As I say, this is night and day from what it was like a week, 10 days ago. So whatever they're teaching is working. It's coming through to them now. Because a week, 10 days ago, when the last time we played Baltimore, where we lost 2 out of 3 and we lost 5-0, I was ready just to cash the season in. Oh, it's done. This is awful. This team's awful. This team's garbage. Tell you what, since then, they have been fantastic. Great baseball. Much better, much tighter. And the games are actually quite enjoyable to watch now. So that's a good sign, because last year was not fun to watch at all. Apart from the, I would say the Field of Dreams game last year was the most fun that I had, and then we ended up losing that game. That was heartbreaking, but at least it was a fun game to watch. In general, most of the games were pretty garbage. But already I can name 3 or 4 games which were a lot of fun, including the opening game of the season. So, so yeah, good signs, man. Good signs. Better ball.
We've been giving a lot of credit to the pitching, and but the offense is starting to pull together. And the guy that did it all, pretty much did it himself yesterday, at the beginning of the game, that we have to give mention to is Giancarlo Stanton.
My man, Big G.
It's number 350. He drove in the first 3 runs of the game. He was just, his at bats, even when he was kind of in that little slump, he was still putting decent at bats together. It wasn't like he was completely lost at the plate. Was just not. It just wasn't going his way. So it's hard to, he can't be overly critical on Stanton, because we know he's going to go through these little, droughts. But if he's able to stay as aggressive and really time out his at bats like he has this slump around, he's going to be just fine. And I think he's going to put up monster numbers this year overall. But big props to him, credit to him for 350. That's not easy to do. You think of all the players that have played this game that don't reach that. So that
is he the 7th or 8th fastest player of all time?
7th fastest player
of all time.
Yep.
There needs to be more credit given to Stanton. The guy's an incredible hitter, and I'm really excited about him this year. This is I think he's going to have an even better year this year than he did last year, because I think he's a little bit more comfortable. And he was awesome last year, but I think he's even going to be a little bit better this year. I don't know why, I just get that vibe. He just seems a little bit more comfortable.
And I know exactly what it is. It's him playing the outfield.
Yeah,
Now
that's true.
he's staying loose during the game. He's not just sitting on the bench waiting to just swing the bat. When you're able to stay loose, you're able to stay loose. And it's really as simple as that. And
It'll also help them that the fan bases no longer have
on
their
his ass,
pitchforks after him. Yeah. I mean, obviously they're still tuned towards him, waiting for him to screw up at any point, but they aren't sharpening their pitchforks like they were last year. But this year, I think there's just a different vibe. There's a little bit more leeway for him, and he's coming through, man. I mean, yeah, as you say, during that slump, the at bats weren't even that bad. Um, um, Often slumps are broken by just a really good quality hit, a good quality single.
yeah.
And that's what he did a couple of days ago when he hit that a good single in the gap. And I thought, like, he's back. And he did. He came through and he won us the game yesterday. He did. He won us that game. That's a W for Stanton last night.
Yep.
He did the whole damn thing.
And even when and Baltimore was able to creep their way back into the game, and like we said, pretty much all week, there and especially in the Boston series is when we first noticed it, is even if the game is tight, they're not just saying, all right, tomorrow's another day. They're grinding out
Right.
the wins that they are getting. You can see that they are trying to remain as highly competitive as they can and let the chips fall where they are. And if they get if they're going to lose, they're going to lose, but they're not going to go down. They're going to go down fighting. And Gallo was able to put together a really good at bat and hit that home run. I mean, it was just insane. And it's really good for Gallo because he was that poor guy. Like you said, he was catching a lot of hell, and it was deserved. And he even admitted it. He's like, "No, I shouldn't be playing. I'm not producing." Yeah. So the mentality is just so much different. And that's part of the dynamic of this franchise that's been missing, is that grit, and the not wanting, and the no quit mentality is something that we have not seen, and that it's something we never thought we'd say. And we were saying, going at the end of last year, going into this offseason this year, we didn't think we were going to see this kind of team.
No.
We were really, and rightfully so at the time, we were very critical of how this how this roster was being constructed.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is how it's going to click, and if they could do this all year, this team's going to be dangerous.
Well, the Yankees know that they can't take games off.
Yeah,
it's a 4-team division. It's as simple as that. I mean, it looks like Boston are not going to be as good this year as they were last year, but I mean,
their
as I
offense
say,
is really struggling.
yeah. I mean, but
Especially
and their pitching as well, a little bit done with Sale being out for a while, but you don't know. I mean, as I say, there are many instances throughout baseball where like teams start off super, super hot and then completely fall apart by June, July, and vice versa. Teams that start off super cold end up winning the whole damn thing. The Atlanta Braves, for instance. So we can't put too much stock into anything at the moment. But at the moment, we do know it's a 4-team race. So if we start taking games off and series off, then we're in trouble. So the Yankees have to keep this momentum through much of the year. They can win. They can finish first. They can finish second. They can finish third, or you can finish fourth. You never know. So they need to keep the momentum up. But certainly the way they're playing, you have to be optimistic that they're going to be the ones that will be fighting Toronto for the division this year.
Yeah, no,
early signs, but it's just the way they're playing in terms of urgency, and it's the locker room which I'm going by. I'm not going by results because it's April, but the fact that I'm seeing a little bit more camaraderie, a little bit more fight, a little bit more interest in the game that they're playing leads me to believe that this will be a decent team this year.
Yeah, no, they're only going to defeat themselves at this point. And as long as they keep that, a winning mentality, positive thinking brings success. And when you're starting to see now, even though we always, we used to, tease Boone and break his chops about having, being too friendly and wanting everybody to relax, the locker room is the happy place. Sometimes I think this year, obviously we're not in the locker room. We're only going by the reports that come out from the players or some beat writers. It's just a really fun locker room, fun atmosphere, but they're taking their time on the field. They're taking more seriously, and that's when they're locking in. That's very vital if you want to be successful. You have to know when to be able to put your game face on, and not take everything so too lightly.
Well, let's not forget, a lot of them are playing for their futures. Torres can't afford to have a bad year this year. He has to have a good year
It's
this
now or
year,
never for him.
or he's gone.
Yeah.
So he has to get it together. Aaron Judge is playing for a contract. Gallo is playing for his future because the way that he started, up until like even 2 days ago, he was guaranteed to be traded by mid-season. So he's playing for his future, and then you got Severino, who's playing for his as well because he's been out for a couple of years. There's a bunch of guys that are playing, not necessarily for their future in baseball, but future as a Yankee, and that's what it comes down to. And Rizzo, he's only got it's a 1 year plus an option, so he's having a big year right now, and he has to. Trevino he's playing for his future as a Yankee too, because I think he kind of knows that he's probably a stock up for fall pay. And then Donaldson, he's only contractually here for 2 years, so these guys are on short-term deals. And Hicks obviously is playing for his reputation, whatever's left of it. So he's there as well. And then of course Stanton wants to prove to the fan base that and the Yankees that he's not just a DH, that he can be relied upon for years to come. So all of these guys, and Trevino, he was brought in as a backup and he's now number one, and deservedly so. So all of them have like a different mindset this year where they're all kind of playing to prove themselves again. DJ LeMahieu had an off year last year. So despite him being an MVP caliber bat, he's trying to redeem himself after a poor year last year and being hurt. So you go through 1 through 9, they're all playing for something.
Yep.
And then you look at the bullpen and it's the same thing. Nothing is guaranteed, man. So there's competition. And I think you're seeing it. I think you're seeing that's why there just seems to be a bit more urgency, a bit more fight. These guys have to perform, or changes will be made next year. So far so good.
What are you expecting to see out of Tyone tonight? What do you think his line's should be, or is gonna be?
So 5 innings jumps out at me. Maybe a 5 1/3, 5. 2 runs, 5 innings, 2 runs, maybe 3 at the most. It's nothing. I'm not really reinventing the wheel here. His numbers have pretty much been consistent. Basically, most starts, he is that kind of 5-inning guy. He'll give up. He gives you a quality start 9 times out of 10, but they're not necessarily like lights out. It's just he's solid.
His early season ERA is 3.7.
Yeah,
and that's really where you expect to see him in the low 3s, maybe high 2s at some points during the season.
If he gives you 5 1/3, 2 runs, even 3 runs, it's not the end of the world at all. And it's a quality start.
I'd like to see the starters being stretched just a little bit more, because eventually they're going to have to send the extra arms back down. Once they adjust the lineups, the number of plays you could have.
I wouldn't expect that from Tyone though, man. I mean, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah,
he's still working himself back to full full health. So I think they're going to take their time with him. But yes, I would expect the innings to ramp up for Severino and Cole and Monty, because Monty's got a rubber arm. And also our ace of the staff, which is nasty. So, Tyon, I think he just gives you a solid start.
Yeah, no, I think if he could, if he could pitch through the fifth, give him 5, get 5 full innings out of him. 80 pitches, with 3 runs or less. I think that's really what we need from him.
Yeah.
Because after that, you want to be able to use some of your, you don't want to sit the bullpen guys too much. And Boone's been really good with not overextending. As much as he's going, as often as early in games as he's going to the bullpen.
Yeah.
He's not overusing guys. You're not seeing the same guys getting, run out left and right like we saw last year with Licky. It almost seemed like he was pitching in every game.
Yeah.
Where it comes September, he was burned out. And so it's going to be having the extra arms in the bullpen right now. I think there's 15 relievers, pitches. It's made Boone's management of the bullpen a lot easier on him. And when the roster drops down to 26, he's going to have to figure out who stays and who goes. And that's going to be the way that they're all pitching, it's going to be a tough decision.
Yeah, there's not really.
It's like, who's the odd man out right now? Nobody.
Exactly. That's a good problem to have. Right. It's a good problem to have, man. I mean, I think Marinaccio's been fine. I mean, he might be.
I think he might be the
likely.
Guy. He's been.
I think so too. But he's been okay too. I mean, he's not really been a problem. But I can't really think of a guy that deserves to be sent down, including him. So that's a good problem to have, man. But I would say that at the moment, the most likely candidate is Marinaccio.
Yeah, and it's one of those, being that we have the Italian team right now. It's like they said in The Godfather, it's just business. Don't take it personal when you get sent down. It's just the way it is. That's just the business of the game.
Well, that's how you've managed this podcast, Tats. It's just business.
It's just business.
It's business.
So, that's gonna wrap up our business tonight. It should be a series sweep tonight, going into Kansas City, and tomorrow we'll be back with Rob, and we'll break down the Kansas City series. Wrap up.
Gabagool.
Yep.
We're getting our Gabagool King back tomorrow. That's good.
Gabagool's back tomorrow.
Gabagool's back tomorrow. Yep. Nice.
So, just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let us know.
This thing of ours, huh? This thing of ours.
Check us out on sportname.com/player on Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. Wear your pinstripes to pride and play hard.